that we all will be benefited from his deliberation on the topic Indian knowledge system in relation to National Education Policy 2020. So I invite Dr. Bandyopadhyay to please deliver his lecture.
Thank you very much. Am I audible? I
Yes,
think so.
yes, yes, sir. Audible.
Um, Actually, where I am staying, the electricity and internet connection is not so good. So I have pre-recorded my entire lecture in the YouTube private link. Hope you can able to see that. And I am staying online and discuss later on.
Okay, sir.
So can you able to
Yes.
see the link? I am just staying and watching this with you.
I will request
But
Sri Gol Kumar sir to please initiate the YouTube link.
Allow me to begin with my expression by heartfelt gratitude to the esteemed members of the organizing committee for granting me this invaluable opportunity to present my thoughts on the Indian knowledge system and the new education policy before this August gathering. Before begin my lecture today, I would like to extend my sincere apologies for not being able to join you live. Unfortunately, where I am currently staying, there is no reliable internet connection or electricity to ensure an uninterrupted broadcast. I have pre-recorded my speech. I am eagerly waiting your company, and if you have any question, please feel free to reach out me via email or phone. I kindly request the organizers to share my contact details with everyone so they can clarify any question they may have. Thank you for understanding. Indian knowledge system plays a crucial role in helping us understand our intangible heritage. It provides a framework for comprehending the deep-rooted philosophy, values, and traditions that define our culture. Through the Indian knowledge system, we gain insight into the intricate connections between different aspects of our heritage, such as art, music, literature, and spirituality. It helps us appreciate the holistic nature of our heritage, shadowing us how each element is interwoven and contributes to the rich tapestry of Indian culture. By studying this system, we not only preserve our heritage, but also gain the deeper understanding for our identity and the principles that have guided us for centuries. Sanskrit is a language of India for around 2 million years, serve as a crucial like to various fields of knowledge. It just not a language, but a repository of wisdom encompassing subjects like philosophy, medical science, botany, law, and more. Each of these disciplines finds its roots deeply intertwined with Sanskrit, highlighting the language's integral role in shaping India's intellectual heritage. In my short presentation today, I will explain India's political and diplomatic tradition, undertaking these traditions, helping us, understanding this tradition, helping us appreciate Indian intangible heritage. By learning about Indian knowledge system, we can see how these traditions are connected to our cultural legacy. Allow me to paint a vivid picture of our heritage truly entails. Imagine you are sitting under the shade of a big banyan tree, surrounded by elders from village. They are all eager to tell you about something special, something called heritage. In India, heritage is like treasure chest, filled with stories, traditions, and values passed down from generation to generation. It's like a magical time capsule that connects us to our ancestors, their way of life, and the rich tapestry of India's country's history. Let me take on a journey to understand this better. Close your eyes and imagine walking through a narrow lanes of ancient village, and you stroll past old withered houses. You can almost hear the whispers of past echoing through the streets. This village is not just a collection of buildings, it's a living testament of our heritage. But the heritage is not about building and architect. It's also about intangible things that make us who we are. It's about celebrating festivals like Diwali, Holi, and something else with joy and enthusiasm, carrying on traditions that have been cherished for country. Heritage is about respecting our elders, learning from their wisdom, and passing down their stories to future generations. It's about embracing diversity, honoring our differences, and finding unity in our shared humanity. So, my young friends, as you sit beneath the banyan tree and listen to the tales of your ancestors, remember that heritage is more than just words. It's largely that binds us together, a source of pride and guiding light as we journey into the future. All right, let's imagine you have a treasure chest in front of you. Inside the chest, there are two types of treasures. One is tangible and another is intangible. Let me explain what is tangible heritage. Imagine reaching into the chest of pulling our ancient artifacts, majestic building, and beautiful artworks. These are tangible heritage, things that you can touch, see, and feel. And intangible heritage is like close your eyes and imagine hearing the sounds of music, laughter, and storytelling. There are intangible treasures, things that you cannot touch by your hand and are deeply woven into the fabric of our culture. In India, intangible heritage includes folk dance like Bharatanatyam and Kathak, classical musical tradition like Hindustani or Carnatic music, the oral traditions like folk tales, epic poems, etc. It encompasses festival rituals and ceremonies that bring communities together and celebrate our shared ideas, our shared identity. Intangible heritage is the heartbeat of our culture, passing down knowledge, values, and traditions from our generation to next. The government of India has a visionary target. By the year 2047, the century of India's independence, our nation aims to transition from a developing country to a developed one. To mark this historic journey, the next 25 years will be celebrated as Amrit Kala or Amrit years. As responsible citizens, we are called to embrace 5 key principles, that is Panch Pran, to drive this transformation and elevate our country to the status of a developed nation. Let's start by understanding Panchpran. It's about breaking free from a mentality of servitude, honoring our heritage, taking pride in great achievements, cherishing our traditional arts, staying united, and fulfilling our civic duties. Appreciating our heritage is key. It connects us to our past and drives us ahead. This understanding builds a strong sense of self-respect, which is vital for our national advancement. It is widely acknowledged that ancient Indian pebbles have had a significant impact on world literature throughout history. The delicate, simple, and sweet style of writing combined with emotional depth has taste of time, centuries to hold relevance in modern times. Importantly, these tales were crafted with a strong ethical focus. Book like Panchatantra of Vishnu Sharman, Hitopodesh of Narayan Sharman are notable instances of such a genre of literature. In Hinduism, there are four main purposes of living, and one of them is called Artha, which means achieving success or fulfilling our desires. The other three are Dharma, doing what is right and just, Kama, love and pleasure, and moksha, the liberation. But according to Arthashastra tradition, Artha is more than just a simple word. It's a technical term in Sanskrit. Kautilya says success is the livelihood of human beings. Success means land containing human beings, the science that provides the means of gaining and protecting the earth is treatise on success. That is the Arthashastra. Manushyavati bhumi iti artha tasya labha palanopaya shastram, Arthashastra. The Arthashastra tradition views success as the primary objective, in contrast to morality, that is dharma, or desire, kama. This is based on Kautilya's proposition, which suggests that morality is only necessary to support action taken to achieve success. Sangvarana matrang hi traiti loko yatra viditi. So it's important to keep in mind that in this tradition, the pursuit of success is seen as more important than adhering to moral principles. To put it simple, Arthashastra is the science of fulfilling one's desires in any way possible. It's like a guide to politics that suggests using deception to get what you want. Until 1905, when R. Shama Shastri, the librarian of Mysore Oriental Library, received the first complete manuscript written in the Granthi script by a Brahmin of Tanjore district, this Arthashastra was kept as esoteric wisdom in the Indian subcontinent. Shama Shastri disguised the Brahmin's identity, most likely at the request of the Brahmin himself, so that the news of such a treatise which deals with trickery did not get out, and their family could be shielded for the generation. This Arthashastra was first published by R. Shama Shastri himself in 1909 from Mysore Oriental Series, and then by Professor J. Joly from Lahore under the Punjab Oriental Series in 1923 from some manuscripts found written in Devanagari scripts. Later, Professor R.P. Kangle published another elaborated edition of the same in 1960 from Bombay University, gathering some manuscripts written in Malayalam scripts, which is an archetype of the manuscripts of R. Sham Shastri in Granthi script. In the opening verse of the prelude section of the book Panchatantra, that is called Kathamukham, Vishnu Sharma pays homage to all the traditional writers of the great work of kingship, that is Arthashastra, including Manu, Vachashpati, Shukra, Parashara, his son Vyasa, and finally Kautilya. In the following verse, he adds, after thorough examination, the essence of various works on governance, Vishnu Sharman has authored a text of great allure known as 5 books of Panchatantra. These 2 verses serves as evidence that Panchatantra is not merely a collection of fable for children, but rather a substantial work dealing with political issues. Vishnu Sharman had an innovative approach to teach the science of government to the princess. He disguised his lessons in the form of stories and wrote 5 books for that purpose. These books were titled on causing dissension among the allies, that is Mitra Veda, to securing allies, that is Mitra Samprapti, the story of crows and the owls, Kakalukyam, on losing what you have gained, that is Labdha Pranasham, and on hasty actions, or Parikshita Karakam. Through these books, Vishnu Sharma conveyed valuable lessons to the princess about governance in an engaging and memorable way. In the final verse of the prelude section, Vishnu Sharma says, whoever reads this by heart every day will learn the political tricks. Additionally, he will not be defeated by Shakra, the king of the gods. Johannes Hertel, who edited Panchatantra text of Puranabhadra in 1912, made several observations about the book. The book's philosophy is simple yet powerful, advocating for a Machiavellian approach of using deceit, cheating, and ruthlessness to achieve political objectives. Hertel interprets the word Tantra as referring to causes of trickery. Most of the stories in the book uphold its Machiavellian character with general, moral, and sometimes explicitly immoral political lessons. Students used to receive instruction directly from their teachers in the past. This is known as direct communication, Guru Shishya Parampara. As a result, it might be possible that the predecessor elaborates on the inner significance of these slokas as well as the stories to their own disciples. Since reading these stories and verses just provides the literal meaning, I shall also attempt to explain their deeper implication by keeping in mind the tradition of Arthashastra. To illustrate my hypothesis, I have chosen a single story from the third Tantra, or the third book, namely Kakalukyam. Let's see an example with one of the stories of Panchatantra. Dhurta Brahmana Chaga Katha is an important story of the third part of Panchatantra, namely Kakalukyam. The story runs like this. Once a poor Brahmin named Mitra Sharma was walking on the road carrying a goat on his shoulder. 3 shrewd men, cunning person, who were very hungry spotted him at the time, so they devised a strategy for taking the goat away from the Brahmin without restoring to violence. They made a decision to employ their intelligence, as it claimed that those who have intellect have power, buddhirjasya balantasya. They stood one after another, keeping some distance between them. While the Brahmin passed by, the first one asked shockingly where he was going with a dirty dog on his shoulder. However, when the second and third repeated the same, the Brahmin became perplexed. He thought for a moment and fled quickly, leaving the goat behind. The plan succeeded well, and the three cunning men organized their feast with that goat. Vishnu Sharman here emphasized the positive point of joint discussion. The man who is flexible, educated, and knowledgeable in various fields may extort anything from any powerful man, exactly like the mischievous men who snatched the goat from the Brahmin. The story also teaches us a sneaky trick that is not mentioned in the lesson. If we want to make a lie seem like it's true, we need to keep repeating it over and over again in a consistent and organized way. Eventually, the listeners will start to believe the lie. This is a kind of brainwash that is still used today in politics and the media. For example, when you see advertisement repeated during a TV show or radio program, it is a way to make you believe that their product is the best. It is an old trick that people still use today. At this juncture, I would like to remind you of the definition of big lie produced by Joseph Goebbels, Chancellor of Adolf Hitler from 1934 to 45. According to Goebbels, if a falsehood is repeated often enough and with enough force, it will eventually be accepted as truth by the masses. However, this deception can only be sustained as long as the state is able to protect the people from the repercussion of the lie in the political, economic, or military realm. Allow me to acquaint you with the concept of gaslight. The terminology originated from the title of a British stage play, Gaslight, which was later adopted into a movie. Gaslight is both the United Kingdom, 1940, and the United States, 1944. Gaslighting is a type of psychological maltreatment that includes an individual or group to doubt their own sanctity, recollections, or perception of reality. Individuals who are subject to gaslighting may feel perplexed, agitated, or unable to rely on their own judgment. With this perspective, we can re-evaluate the Panchatantra, moving away from its conventional level as Machiavellian. Instead, we can recognize that Vishnu Sharman utilizes the conduct of the wicked to instruct the virtuous on how to overcome their adversaries through niti strategy. Following this line of reasoning, the dishonesty and duplicity portrayed in the Panchatantra serves only to demonstrate the consequences of such behavior and encourage reader to avoid it. In essence, the underlying message is to learn from the mistakes of others and strive towards moral excellence. Incorporating the Indian knowledge system into the new education policy is crucial for helping our future citizens understand India's heritage from various angles. They will learn about India's traditions in alchemy, civil engineering, medicine, law, and politics, enriching their knowledge. This approach will not only bridge the gap in our current understanding, but also install a deep sense of self-respect among future citizens. Embracing our culture will inspire our future citizens to delve deeper into the wealth of Indian knowledge. This journey will propel our nation towards developments, breaking the shackles of physical and mental poverty. As we treasure our heritage, we pave the way for a brighter, more prosperous future for all. Thank you very much.
Before moving forward, I would request Dr. Kinshuk Saha, convener of the seminar, to kindly facilitate Dr. Bandyopadhyay, Honorable Speaker. Sir, please.
Yes, I'm listening. Actually, connection is very bad here. That's why I had to record my speech.
Our convener is facilitating Dr. Bandyopadhyay
Thank you.
with badge, bag, uttariyo.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Memento.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the lecture, like a cinematic view.
Memento. Sapling.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your deliberation rich in Indian tradition and indigenous knowledge in our Sanskrit texts like Panchatantra, which are quite helpful in giving us practical wisdom.
Thank you very much.
Due to the lack of time on our part, we will be keeping your question answer session for some other time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Okay.
Moving on, we are going to start our technical session for today, where participants from various institutions will be presenting their paper in the seminar. So to preside this technical session, I will request Dr. Amrendra Kumar Mishra, HOD Sahitya in the Mahavidyalaya, to please take the chair of session chairperson. I will also request co-coordinator of the seminar, Dr. Dayanand Panigrahi, to please coordinate this technical session.
ओम श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। यैरिमे गुरुभिः पूर्वं पदवाक्य प्रमाणत व्याख्याता सर्ववेदांतास्ता नित्यं प्रणतोस्म्यहम्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। केंद्रीय संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालयस्य अनुदानेन कल्याचक विक्रमकिशोर आदर्श संस्कृत महाविद्यालय परिसरे परिचालितेयम् एकदिवसीया राष्ट्रीय संगोष्ठी यस्याः विषयः भवति भारतीय ज्ञान प्रणाली तथा नूतन शिक्षा नीति 2020। अस्मिन् अवसरे नैके विद्वांसः प्रथमसत्रे समुपस्थिताः आसन्, यत्र उद्घाटनसत्रे अस्माभिः बहु किञ्चित् श्रुतम्। इदानीं द्वितीयसत्रे भारतस्य विभिन्नेषु प्रान्तेषु विभिन्नेषु स्थानेषु समागताः प्राध्यापकाः शोधछात्राः सन्ति, ये अत्र आगत्य चर्चासत्रेऽस्मिन् स्वीयपत्रवाचनं करिष्यन्ति। अतः पत्रवाचनसत्रेऽस्मिन् ये अत्र आधारपुरुषरूपेण विराजन्ते ते भवन्ति अस्मदीयाः महाविद्यालयस्य साहित्यविभागस्य अध्यक्षाः प्रमुखाः डॉक्टर अमरेन्द्र कुमार मिश्रवर्याः। अतः तान् अहं समितिपक्षतः महाविद्यालयपक्षतः चर्चासत्रपक्षतः हार्दं हार्दं स्वागतं सुस्वागतं व्याहरामि। अहम् अस्याः संगोष्ठ्याः समन्वयकान् अनुरुन्धे तत्र आधारपुरुषाणां मिश्रवर्याणां स्मृतिचिह्नप्रदानपूर्वकं तेषां सम्माननं कुर्वन्तु इति। अस्मिन् अवसरे अहं मातृकल्पान् मीनाक्षी मिश्रवर्यान् मातृकल्पाः मिश्रवर्याः अनुरुन्धे आगत्य अस्तु। अत्र अस्मिन् सत्रे प्रायशः 13 अत्र प्रतिभागिनः भवन्ति, ये अत्र स्वीयपत्रवाचनं करिष्यन्ति। समयानुसारं सर्वेषां कृते पत्रवाचनाय अवसरः प्रदास्यते। अतः तत्र समयेपि यदि चर्वितचर्वणविषयाः भवन्तः जानन्त्येव, यथा यदि कश्चन मत्तः पूर्वं यदि स एव विषयः तेन प्रतिपादितः, तत्र सारांश वैशिष्ट्यं वा यद्वा भवतां विद्यते तत् उपस्थापयन्तु। भिन्नः यदि विषयः नाम NEP 2020 अस्ति, तत्र तानेव बिन्दून् आधारीकृत्य यः कश्चन पूर्वं प्रतिपादितः तान् बिन्दून् वयं तत्र यदि वैशिष्ट्यं किञ्चित् अस्ति तदेव तत्र उपस्थापयामः, नान्यत्, यतोहि समयः तथा नास्ति। अतः भिन्नं किञ्चित् अस्ति, वैशिष्ट्यं किञ्चित् अस्ति पत्रे, तदेव विषयं वयम् उपस्थापयामः। अस्तु, एषः अनुरोधः सर्वेषां कृते। सर्वादौ अहम् अनुरुन्धे मातृवर्याः मीनाक्षी मिश्र महोदयाः आगत्य स्वीयपत्रवाचनं कुर्वन्तु।
नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। Respected guests on the dais and dear friends and students, Indian knowledge system introduction. The Indian knowledge system comprises of Jnana, Vijnana and Jivan Darshan that have developed out of experience, observation, experimentation and religious analysis. This tradition of validating and putting into practice has impacted our education, arts, administration, justice, health, and etc. Objectives. The main objective of IKS is to investigate, conduct critical studies, highlights the strength of IKS, exploit its fullest potential, showcasing its significance or sustainable environment, love for nature, holistic ways of living, health, conscious that ultimately leads to quality life. Benefits point. The Indian knowledge system priorities language proficiency by promoting regional languages, preserving linguistic diversity, and enriching students with a deep appreciation for their cultural heritage. Bilingual means double. Bilingual means dual. Education further enhances communication skills. Aims. IKS aims to support the facilities further. Research to solve contemporary social issues. IKS is based on the Vedic literature, the Vedas and Upanishads. History of IKS. History of IKS in India. In India, there is an unbroken, living oral tradition with a history of more than the least 5,000 years. In Arthashastra, Chanakya classified knowledge into 4 types. Point 1, Anmikiki, used in general sense of science, encompassing logic and philosophy. Number 2, Trai, used to refer traditional knowledge to the Vedas in particular. Number 3, Varta, used to represent wealth creation, agriculture and commerce. Number 4, Dandaniti, used to represent politics and public administration. The classical literature of India is unusually described as Chaturdasha Vidyasthanam 14, consisting of 4, Veda, Ruk, Yaju, Sham, Shama, Atharva, 6 Vedanga, Sikhya, Kalpa, Vyakarana, Chanda, Niruta, Jyotisha, Itihasa, means Ramayana, Mahabharata, Purana, Ashtadasha, Dharmashastra, Manusmriti, etc. 6 Darshana Shastra. Conclusion. The Indian point of view on the knowledge is rooted in ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions which aim to bring about self-realization and liberation. The concept of Vedanta, Yoga, Dharma and Varna play a crucial role in shaping the Indian perspective on knowledge. Thanks to all.
वस्तुतः अस्माकं सर्वेषामपि तत्र उत्साहवर्धनाय इमाः आचार्याः यदा कदापि आगच्छन्ति सर्वदापि अस्मान् उत्साहं वर्धयितुं सर्वदा स्वीयपत्रवाचनं कुर्वन्त्येव। अतः एताभ्यः महोदयाभ्यः हार्दाः धन्यवादाः। इतः परम् अत्र प्रायशः सहाचार्याः सहायकाचार्याः अन्येपि अध्यापकाः शोधछात्राः सन्ति। अहं क्रमानुसारम् एकैकम् आह्वयामि। अहम् अनुरुन्धे डॉक्टर नरनारायण दास महोदय इमे सहाचार्याः प्राचीन नवीन शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां संस्कृत पठन पाठन व्यवस्था इत्यादि विषयं स्वीयपत्रम् उपस्थापयिष्यन्ति।
ओं नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय कर्पूरगौरं करुणावतारं संसारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे भवं भवानी सहितं नमामि। मान्या मंचासीन महाभागा अत्र परिशोभमान विविधेषु प्रतिष्ठानेषु समागता मम अनुजवर्गा अग्रजवर्गा सर्वेभ्यो यथायोग्य सम्मानं विनिवेदयामि। छात्रेभ्यो यथायोग्य सम्मानं विनिवेदयामि। जेषां प्रसादात् सकले सुजाता शास्त्रान्तराणां महान् विकास तेषां गुरूणां अभिवन्दनार्थं मयिषार्प्यते अक्षरपुष्पमाला। अद्य मम विषय भवति प्राचीन नवीन शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां संस्कृतस्य पठन पाठन व्यवस्था। तर्हि प्राचीन व्यवस्था का आसीत्, नवीन व्यवस्था किम् अस्ति इति तुलनात्मकम् अध्ययनं। तत्र का शिक्षा इति विषये उपनिषदि उक्तं सा विद्या जा विमुक्तये। तर्हि उपनिषदि का परंपरा मुक्ति पथं मार्गं दर्शयति इति उपनिषदि उक्तम्। उपनिषदि अस्माकं निर्देशो वर्तते। तत्र शिक्षाया उद्देश्य विषये तत्र स्वामीजी महाभागेन स्वामी विवेकानंद महाभागेन कथितम् एडुकेशन इज द मैनिफेस्टेशन ऑफ परफेक्शन ऑलरेडी इन मैन। अतएव मैनिफेस्टेशन शिक्षा यस्मिन् विषये उपदिशति। तत्र नीतिकारेणपि कथितम् अपूर्व कपि कोशायं विद्यते अपूर्व कोपि कोशायं विद्यते तव भारती यं भारत की दृशि वयेन वृद्धिम् आप्नोति क्षयम् आप्नोति संचयात् इति ज्ञानस्य न हि ज्ञानात् मुक्ति। ज्ञानस्य उपरि तत्र चर्चा गुरुत्वमपि अर्पणं विद्यते इति प्राचीन परंपरा। तर्हि प्राचीन परंपरा ईदृशी आसीत् यथा सर्वे केन रूपेण आध्यात्मिक नीतिवादी भावना विषये परिचिता भविष्यन्ति। मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव इति भावना तत्र वर्तते। अत्र एव संस्कृतस्य चर्चा अस्ति इति प्राचीन परंपरायां। तत्र पुनश्च यं केन प्रकारेण विद्यालाभो भवति विद्या कतिविधा इति पूर्वं उक्तं चतुर्दश विद्या अंगानि वेदचत्वारि मीमांसा न्यायविस्तार इति अनेन प्रकारेण कथितं। पुनश्च केन प्रकारेण इयं विद्या बोध भविष्यति अधीति बोध आचरण प्रचारी इति श्रीहर्षेण नैषध ग्रंथे उक्तम्। विद्या केन प्रकारेण अध्ययनं भविष्यति इति विषये नैषध ग्रंथे कथितं। तत्रैव संस्कृतस्य चर्चा वर्तते एव। पुनः प्रश्न समुदेति केन प्रकारेण वयं विद्यालाभं करिष्यामः। तत्र अस्माकं या परंपरा तत्र उच्यते कथयति हैबिट इज द सेकंड नेचर अभ्यासे धार्यते विद्या। पुनः श्रीमद् भगवद्गीतायां कथितं तद्विद्धि ज्ञान केन प्रकारेण भवति इति क्रियमाणे प्रश्ने दृष्टिगोचरायते। तद्विधि प्रणिपातेन प्रश्नेन सेवया वयं केन प्रकारेण विद्या अर्जनं कुर्मः तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन यदि दैनन्दिन जीवने गुरुजनान् प्रणामं कुर्मः तर्हि विद्या भविष्यति उपार्जनं भविष्यति यत अभिवादनशीलस्य नित्यवृद्धोपसेविन तस्य चत्तारि वर्धन्ते आयुर्विद्या यशोबलं तर्हि विद्यालाभस्य उपायः भवति यत् प्रणाम तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन प्रणिप्रश्नेन वयं यदि प्रश्नोत्तर कुर्मः विदां कुर्वन्तु भवन्तः नचिकेत उपाख्याने तत्र एव प्रश्नोत्तर माध्यमेन जमराज सकाशात् बालक नचिकेतसः तत्त्वज्ञान उत्पन्नं भवति अतएव अनेन प्रकारेण विद्या भवति इति प्राचीना परंपरा तद्विद्धि प्रणिपातेन प्रणिप्रश्नेन सेवया यदि वयं दैनन्दिन जीवने सेवां कुर्मः तर्हि विद्या भविष्यति इति तत्र निर्देशो वर्तते प्राचीन परंपरा तत्र मम्मटेनापि कथितं शक्तिर्निपुणता लोक तर्हि केन प्रकारेण विद्या भविष्यति शक्ति निपुणता अभ्यासै इति प्रकारे विद्या अर्जनं भवति इति प्राचीन परंपरा इति परंपरा वर्त आधुनिक नवीन शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां भिन्ना व्यवस्था तत्र एव पुरा जना छात्रा वा तत्र एव केवलं वेद वेदांत विषये चर्चां कृतवन्तः आधुनिक शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां न केवलं संस्कृतस्य अपितु जे नवीना विषय इतिहास आंग्ल भाषा इत्यादि विषये चर्चा कर्तुं ते समर्था भविष्यन्ति इति नवीन शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां चॉइस बेस्ड क्रेडिट सिस्टम जे तावत् किं कुर्वन्ति विज्ञानं विषये चर्चा कुर्वन्ति ते भी संस्कृत विषये चर्चा कर्तुं समर्था पुरा की का व्यवस्था आसीत् जेषां कृते संस्कार अस्ति उपनयनादि संस्कार भवति ते एव वेदपाठं करिष्यन्ति न तु साम्प्रतं सर्वकारस्य आधुनिक शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां न तादृशी भावना जे तावत् ब्राह्मण सन्तान अपरेषु वर्णे सर्वेषां वर्णानां कृते संस्कृतस्य चर्चा वर्तते अतएव संस्कृत पुरा आसीत् साम्प्रतं थास्यति भविष्यते पि थास्यति इति अहं आशास्महे इत्युक्त्वा अहं विरमामि नमो नमः
धन्यवादः एकम् अनुरोधं करोमि अहं मातरमतिरिच्य वयं सर्वे समानाः अतएव उपचारस्य आवश्यकता नास्ति इदानीम् आवश्यकता वर्तते समयस्य अतएव यदि कश्चित् नवीनः विषयः स्यात् तर्हि तेषां सम्यक् रूपेण उपस्थापनं कुर्वन्तु चर्वितचर्वण विषये दयानन्देन पूर्वमेव उक्तं यतोहि संयोजकेन उक्तं 10 चतुर्वादनात् अनन्तरम् अन्तिमसत्रस्य भविष्यति अतएव झटिति परञ्च यदि चेत् स्वकीयं किमपि विशिष्टं वर्तते तर्हि अवश्यमेव उपस्थापयन्तु नहि चेत् औपचारिकतायाः आवश्यकता नास्ति इति धन्यवादः
अस्तु यतोहि बहुविषयिणी चर्चा इयं वर्तते अत्र सर्वासु भाषास्वपि पत्राणि समागतानि सन्ति संस्कृतपत्रं तदनन्तरं तत्र राष्ट्रभाषायां तदनन्तरम् आङ्ग्लभाषायाम् इति एकैकशः अहम् आह्वयामि यतोहि साक्षात् सर्वमपि संस्कृतं भवति चेत् तथा किञ्चित् वैविध्यता तत्र न भवति अतः अहम साक्षात अभी अपनी राजभाषा में जो पत्र है भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में राजधर्म का स्वरूप परिमल मंडल सहायक अध्यापक स्वर्णमयी जोगेंद्रनाथ महाविद्यालय तो परिमल जी को अभी मैं बुलाना चाहता हूँ डायरेक्ट अपना विषय कर आरंभ कीजिए यहाँ औपचारिकता की ज़रूरत नहीं है ठीक है सभी जानते हैं हम सभी उपस्थित हैं
सभी को नमस्कार भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में राजधर्म का स्वरूप मेरा विषय है हमारे भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में जो राजधर्म का विषय आता है वो तो बहुत विस्तृत है प्रायः सभी ग्रंथों में वैदिक काल से लेकर आधुनिक काल पर्यंत जितने सारे ग्रंथ है सभी में राजधर्म के विषय में लिखा है तो मेरे इसमें सभी के थोड़ा थोड़ा लिखा है मैं 1-2 श्लोक बताकर ही ख़त्म करूँगा क्योंकि टाइम तो है नहीं जैसे बता प्रजा सुखे सुखं राज्ञः प्रजानं च हिते हितं नात्म प्रियम 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 राज्ञः प्रजानं तु प्रियम प्रियम। देखिए, हमारे प्राचीन भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में प्रजा के बारे में कितने सुंदर विवेचन देते हैं, लेकिन वर्तमान समय में प्रजा के बारे में नहीं सोचते हैं। सरकार हो या साधारण जो हमारे सरकार होते हैं, वो सोचते हैं कि प्रजा हमारे काम करेगा, लेकिन प्रजा ही जो हमारा सब कुछ है। प्रजा सुखे राज्ञः सुखम राज्ञः। तो अभी बहुत चिंतन का विषय है कि हमारे भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में इतने सुंदर विवेचन रहने के बाद भी हम अभी कुछ नहीं कर पा रहे, प्रजा के बारे में नहीं सोच रहे हैं। तो इसलिए सभी जो हमारे राजधर्म जो है, मुख्य जितने सारे होते हैं राज कार्य में, उनको भी संस्कृत थोड़ा पढ़ना चाहिए। इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम पढ़ने का ये मतलब नहीं है कि सिर्फ छात्र ही पढ़े, उसके साथ साथ जो राजधर्म में जो लगे हैं उनको भी ये भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा का नॉलेज रहना चाहिए। क्योंकि हम तो भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा के बात करते हैं, लेकिन जो लोग बात कर रहे हैं उन्होंने ही भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा का नहीं जान रहे हैं। तो अगर नहीं जानते हैं, जो राजधर्म चलाते हैं, तो फिर भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा हमारे पुस्तक में ही रह जाएगा। तो इसलिए हमारे जो राजनेता लोग हैं, उन लोगों के भी हमारे जो नई शिक्षा नीति है, इनमें भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा को पढ़ना चाहिए। ये मेरे मतलब हम लोग का प्रयास रहेगा कि जो राजनेता होगा उनको भी ऐसे लोगों को चुने जो थोड़ा भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा का नॉलेज हो। हमारे पश्चिम बंगाल में बहुत सारे जो अनपढ़, थोड़ा बहुत इधर उधर का ज्ञान रहता है, वो भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा का कुछ अलग अलग बता देते हैं। जैसे कुछ आप टीवी में देखेंगे, तमिलनाडु का मुख्यमंत्री का लड़का क्योंकि हमारा शास्त्र है गलत है, ऐसे ऐसे बता देते हैं। ये सब नहीं होना चाहिए। हमारे परंपरा में जो अच्छे चीज़ है उनको निकाल कर सामने लाए, फिर उसमें हम रिसर्च करेंगे तो बहुत कुछ आगे आने वाला है हमारे इसमें। तो ये बात बोलकर मैं अपनी वक्तव्य समाप्त करता हूँ संक्षेप में।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नाउ आई वांट टू कॉल संजीत देवनाथ to present his paper unveiling the depth and exploration of the Indian knowledge system.
Thank you. Due to lack of time, I will only say some basic things about Indian knowledge system. Basically, how Indian knowledge system is different from Western knowledge system. This will be my prime focus. First of all, as we know, the Western way of thinking of knowledge is called as logos, meaning knowledge based upon reasoning. On the other hand, the Indian tradition of thought looked at knowledge as an experience or knowing. But why this difference is there? So the difference occurs from its root. In Indian knowledge system, it is rooted in ancient Indian texts such as Vedas, Upanishad, and other scriptures. Indian knowledge system emphasizes spiritual and metaphysical aspects, seeking to understand the nature of existence, consciousness, and the self. And his view is holistic, that integrate physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. On the other hand, Western knowledge system is emerged from ancient Greek philosophy, Roman legal system, and later develops in Europe. It focuses on empirical observation, reason, and logic. In addition, its prominent focus on individualism and materialism. That's why we as an Indian all should know about our ancient Indian knowledge system so that our life and we will be in eternal happiness that is not imminent in Western knowledge system. Thank you.
इतः परम पापुराणी सासमल योगदा सत्संग पालपड़ा महाविद्यालय। भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा एवं राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति इति विषय वर्तते।
सर्वेभ्यो नमो नमः। मम विषय अस्ति भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा एवं राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति। NEP 2020 प्रणाल्याः राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 इत्यनेन 10+2 प्रणाल्याः पुरातन शिक्षा रचनातः
এক মিনিট দাঁড়াও বলতে একটু দাঁড়াও বলে যাচ্ছি তো দিয়ে এখানে দাঁড়াবো আমি এলে তারপর বাড়ি বাড়ি যাই আমি 1 মিনিটের মধ্যে আসছি
NEP 2020 प्रणाल्याः राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 इत्यनेन 10+2 प्रणाल्याः पुरातन शिक्षा रचनातः 5+3+3+4 प्रणाल्याः संशोधनं कृतमस्ति। प्रारम्भिक बाल्यकालस्य परिचर्चायां शिक्षायां च बलं दत्त्वा विद्यालयस्य पाठ्यक्रमस्य 10+2 संरचनायाः स्थाने 5+3+3+4 पाठ्यक्रम संरचना स्थापिता भविष्यति। राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीतेः विशेषता शिक्षणस्य अनुभवं वर्धयितुं शैक्षिकनियोजनं प्रशासनं प्रबन्धनं च सुधारयितुं प्रौद्योगिक्या लाभं ग्रहीतुं च उद्दिश्यते। तथा च राष्ट्रीयशैक्षिक प्रौद्योगिकी मञ्चः अस्ति। NEP 2020 मध्ये प्रमुखाः परिवर्तनं सन्ति। स्नातकस्तरीयस्य कृते छात्राः प्रथम द्वितीय तृतीय वा चतुर्थवर्षाणां कृते स्वस्य इष्टपाठ्यक्रमं चिन्तितुं शक्नुवन्ति। ते निर्दिष्टावधिः समयमध्ये प्रमाणीकरणेन कस्यापि द्विवर्षस्य पाठ्यक्रमस्य समाप्तिं डिप्लोमा ततः चतुर्वर्षस्य डिग्री पाठ्यक्रमस्य प्रथमवर्षस्य एकवर्षस्य अन्तः स्वस्य इष्टपाठ्यक्रमं पूर्णं कर्तुं लक्ष्यं कर्तुं शक्नुवन्ति। NEP 2020 छात्राणां कृते सुविधा अस्ति समग्र विकास ललिता शिक्षणमार्गः पाठ्यक्रमभार न्यूनीकृतः सार्वभौमिक शिक्षा कौशल विकास। NEP 2020 छात्राणां कृते असुविधा अस्ति विषय विकल्पं संकुचितं कृत्वा अपर्याप्त शिक्षक प्रशिक्षणं समर्थनं च डिजिटल आधारभूत संरचनायाम् असन्तुलनम् अपर्याप्त कार्यान्वय रणनीतिः। अतः यद्यपि नवीन शिक्षा नीति 2020 भारतीय शिक्षा व्यवस्थायां सकारात्मक परिवर्तनम् आनेतुम् उद्दिश्यते तथापि तस्याः पक्षविपक्षयोः समीक्षात्मक मूल्यानाम् अत्यावश्यकम्। पक्षपातानां समीक्षात्मकं परीक्षां कृत्वा हितधारकाः नूतनानां शिक्षानीतीनां प्रभावी कार्यान्वयस्य दिशि कार्यं कर्तुं शक्नुवन्ति। येन एतादृशी शिक्षाव्यवस्था सुनिश्चिता भवति या समग्र विकासं समावेशं सर्वेषां कृते समान अवकाशान् च प्रवर्धयति इत्युक्त्वा अहं विरमामि।
Now I want to invite Dr. Prasad Ranjan Chakravarti.
Good afternoon. I am Prasad Ranjan Chakravarti. The paper that I am going to present is entitled as Colonial Interruptions and the Relegation of Classical Indian Knowledge and in an Investigation. The impact of colonial rule on India's society and intellectual sphere was significant, leading to important shifts in intellect and knowledge. The current study aims to analyze the intentional exclusion of classical Indian social thought by conducting detailed investigation of historical narratives, colonial documents and influential writings. The research reveals that colonial powers are trying to awaken indigenous social ideas in order to strengthen their own domination, and it does this by analyzing the tactics and power dynamics that were used. The research highlights the interconnectedness of politics, culture, and knowledge, and reveals how dominant nations have deliberately concealed and disregarded the deep ideas of indigenous intellectuals. In addition, the research examines the lasting influence of colonial activities, demonstrating how they still shape current academic discussions and cultural storage. Underscoring the need of recognizing and correcting past errors, this research aims to shed light in the notions that have made understanding traditional Indian social concepts difficult in the current connected world. It promotes a reassessment of the significance of these concepts in the present connected world, highlighting the need of recovering and incorporating them into current discussions. Thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. Chakravarti. इदानीं डॉक्टर शुभमय पहाड़ी जातीय शिक्षानीतौ भारतीय शून्यतत्त्वस्य अवधारणा.
ओं सदाशिवसमारम्भं शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां. नमः सभायै. विषयस्तु वर्तते महोदय तु उक्तमेव जातीय शिक्षानीतौ भारतीय शून्यतत्त्वस्य अवधारणा इति. समयस्तु तत्र सीमितः इति कृत्वा संक्षेपेण वक्तुम् इच्छामि. साम्प्रतिके जातीय शिक्षानीतौ दैट इज NEP 2020 तत्र 4.27 तमे अनुच्छेदे भारतस्य ऐतिह्यगत ज्ञानम् उल्लिखितम्. यज् ज्ञानं तु सर्वप्राचीनं तथा सर्वेषां कल्याणाय कल्पितम्. आधुनिक समये ज्ञानशक्तिवर्धनाय अस्माकम् ऐतिह्यं सम्यक् ज्ञात्वा समग्रे विश्वे भारतीय ज्ञानपरम्परायाः विकासो अवश्य करणीयः इति कृत्वा तत्र IKS सर्वेषु विषयेषु गवेषणाधारां समुन्नतये तत्र भारतीय ज्ञानानां सामाजिक क्षेत्रे व्यवहाराय प्रचाराय प्रसाराय च तत्र 2020 तमे ख्रीष्टाब्दे भारत सर्वकारेण तत्र IKS इति नाम्ना एकः संस्थाः प्रतिष्ठिताः. यद्वा भवतु तत्र जातीय शिक्षानीतौ वैदिक गणितस्य उपरि समधिकं गुरुत्वम् आरोपितम् अस्ति. तत्र निगदितम् अस्ति यत् यदि पाठ्यक्रमेण सह वैदिक गणितं तत्र एकत्रीकृतं भवेत् तर्हि शिक्षार्थिनः गाणितिकधाराणां तत्र सुदृढः उपलब्धिः कर्तुं शक्नुवन्ति. तेन सह तेषां मानसिक विकासोऽपि भवितुम् अर्हति. जातीय शिक्षानीति प्रसंगे अस्माकं मान्यवर प्रधानमन्त्रिणा श्री नरेन्द्र मोदी महोदयेन प्रतिपादितं यत् वैदिक गणितस्य ज्ञानं संगणक इव द्रुततया गाणितिक समस्यानां समाधानमपि कर्तुं शक्नोति. तन्मते गाणितिक चिन्ताशक्ति न केवलं गाणितिक समस्यानां समाधानाय अपि तु चिन्तनस्य एकः उत्कृष्टः मार्गः भवति वैदिक गणितः. वेदस्य मूलसंहितासु असीमं ज्ञानं तु वर्तन्ते. तत्र वर्तते वयं जानीमः तत्र नैकेषां विषयाणां तत्र आलोचनं वर्तते. तत्र यद्वा भवतु पदार्थविद्या भवतु रसायनशास्त्रं भवतु ज्यामितिकविद्या भवतु गणितशास्त्र तत्र समेषां शास्त्राणां तु तत्र आलोचना वर्तते. अहं तु केवलं गणितशास्त्रम् आधारीकृत्वा किञ्चित् वक्तुकामो अस्मि. विषयस्मिन् अस्माकं गवेषणाः धारा तत्र ज्ञान विषये अस्माकं ऋषि अरविन्द किं कथयति. पावर ऑफ द एंशिएंट इंडियन स्पिरिट वाज ए स्ट्रॉन्ग इंटेलेक्चुअलिटी at once austere and rich, robust and minute, powerful and delicate, massive in principle and curious in details. अतः अस्माकं वेदांग ज्योतिष शास्त्रेषु गणितस्य सर्वोच्चं महत्त्वं प्रतिपादितम्. उक्तं च तत्र यथा शिखा मयूराणां नागानां मनयो यथा तद्वत् वेदांग शास्त्राणां गणितं मूर्धनि स्थितम्. विशेषतः गणितशास्त्रस्य अत्र चिन्तनं येन विना वयं कर्तुं न शक्नुमः तस्यैव शून्यतत्त्वस्य विश्लेषणं विधीयते। तत्र भारतीय ज्योतिर्विदेन आर्यभट्टेन तथा गणिताचार्येण ब्रह्मगुप्तेन सर्वादौ शून्यतत्त्वस्य प्रयोगः विहितः। ऋग्वेदस्य नासदीय सूक्ते तथा बौद्धदर्शनस्य माध्यमिक सिद्धान्ते एवं प्रकारेण तन्त्रस्य निष्कल तत्र शिवचिन्तने नैयायिकस्य अभावचिन्तने वा शून्यस्य जयध्वनि तथा दार्शनिकं विश्लेषणं श्रूयते। पाणिनीय व्याकरणेपि लोपपदेन शून्यस्य धारणा अनुभूयते। उच्यते तत्र अदर्शनं लोपः इति। सुतरां लोपो नाम एका विद्यमाना अदृश्य तत्र सत्ता वर्तते। छान्दोग्य उपनिषदि श्वेतकेतु बटबीजस्य अभ्यन्तरे किमपि न दृष्टवान् अर्थात् शून्यं दृष्टवान्। तत् शून्यमेव सर्वेषाम् उत्सभूतम्। अस्मात् शून्यात् एव विशालस्य वटवृक्षस्य उत्पत्ति परमशून्यादेव जगतः उत्पत्तिरिति। सुतरां शून्यमेव अव्यक्त ब्रह्मस्वरूपम् इति वक्तुं वयं शक्नुमः। शून्यं तु निरपेक्षं शून्येन सह ब्रह्मणः स्वभाव सादृश्यपूर्ण। यजुर्वेदे अपि गणितविषयकं नैके मन्त्राः प्राप्यन्ते। जैः वेदस्य गणितमूलत्वं प्रमीयते। तत्र तस्यैव मूलं भवति शून्यतत्त्वं। यद्वा भवतु शून्यं भवति विश्वस्य एकम् उत्कृष्टं तत्त्वम्। अस्य तात्त्विकं पर्यालोचनम् अद्यापि प्रचलति। तस्मादेव जगतः सृष्टिः तत्रैव लयः इति। तत्त्वस्य अवधारणा वैज्ञानिकैः दार्शनिकैश्च भिन्न भिन्न दिशा विहिताः। तत्र वराहमिहिरस्य सूर्यसिद्धान्ते सुबन्धोः वासवदत्तायां च शून्यबिन्दवः इत्यनेन बिन्दुना सह शून्यस्य तुलना विद्यते। अमरकोशे शून्यं नाम रिक्तं यद्वा भवतु। एवं प्रकारेण शून्य विषयिकी तु तत्र बहु तत्र चर्चा अत्र विधीयते, परन्तु समयाभावात् केवलं निष्कर्षमात्रं निमेषाभ्यन्तरे अहं कथयामि। तत्र वस्तुतः दशमलव स्थानमान पद्धतिर्भवति भारतवर्षस्य सर्वोत्कृष्टम् आविष्कृतं तत्त्वम्। अस्यां पद्धत्याम् एकतः आरभ्य नवमं यावत् नवाङ्काः विद्यन्ते। तत्र दशमं भवति शून्यमिति। एतेन दशचिह्न माध्यमेन सर्वं खलु गणित विज्ञानं प्रचलति। शून्यस्य अपरिहार्यता प्रसंगे प्रसिद्ध गणितविद जी.डी. हसल महोदयः कथयति द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ द क्रिएशन ऑफ जीरो मार्क can never be exaggerated. This giving to airy nothing, not merely a local habitation and a name, a picture, a symbol, but helpful power is the characteristic of the hindrance. Whence it sprang, it is like coming the nirvana into the general on go of intelligence of power. तत्र विषयस्तु शून्यतत्त्वस्य अवधारणायाः उद्देश्यं किं वर्तते? अस्माकं गणितशास्त्रे संख्याविधानं गणितानां भेद उपभेदा बहवः विषया चर्चिता। तेषामत्र मया स्थालीपुलाकन्यायेन उपस्थापनं जातं। लक्ष्यं तु अत्र केवलम् एतदेव प्रतिपादनं यत् गणितविद्यायां सम्प्रति जे मार्गाः गृहीताः याः पद्धतयः अवलम्बिताः समेषामेव चिन्तनम् अस्माकं वैदिके तथा संस्कृतवाङ्मये जातम्। अपि च आधुनिककाले गणितशास्त्रस्य यादृशं वैज्ञानिकम् उत्कर्षं परिलक्ष्यते तस्य बीजं तु अस्माकं वैदिक ऋषयः मुनयः सहस्रेभ्यः वर्षेभ्यः प्राक् प्रतिपादितवन्तः। अतः तर्हि विषयस्मिन् वेदभाष्यकृता सत्यव्रत शास्त्री महोदयेन उक्तम् आवर ओपिनियन इज दैट इन वैदिक टाइम्स आवर कंट्री हैड मेड एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी प्रोग्रेस। तर्हि वेदस्य तथा परवर्ती शास्त्राणां सम्यक् अध्ययनेन प्रयोगेन च आधुनिक विज्ञानस्य इतोपि वर्धनं भविष्यति इति नास्ति सन्देहः। केवलं च तत्र समन्वयः आवश्यकः इत्युक्त्वा विरमामि विस्तरात्। जयतु संस्कृतं जयतु भारतं। नमो नमः।
बहुशः धन्यवादाः। इतः परम् अध्यापिका अस्ति विदिशा त्रिपाठी। इसके बाद 2 रिसर्च स्कॉलर है और 3 रिसर्च स्कॉलर है और 1 टीचर है, तो इसीलिए ध्यान में रखते हुए समय से समाप्त करें।
good afternoon. My topic is NEP 2020 and Buddhist philosophy. Buddhism advances the most striking feature of Buddhism is the Buddhism advances the theory of Nirvaya. Nirvaya is the state total freedom and no sufferings with perfect knowledge, perfect peace and perfect wisdom. Man is free from all bondage in the state of Nirvaya. Lord Buddha taught his followers four noble thoughts. The four noble truths presented by Buddhas are the truth of suffering, that's called dukkha, the truth of the origin of suffering, samudaya, the truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha, the truth of the cessation of suffering, marga. The Buddhist education system aimed at regaining our instinct nature. It also teaches absolutely equality, which stems from Buddha's recognition that all sentient begins process that innate wisdom the nature. Buddha's teaching helps us to realize that innate, perfect, ultimate wisdom. Education is a two-tier system. These two systems are popular elementary education and higher education system. Their curriculum of education are Hetu Vidya, logic, Nirvaya, science and reasoning, Shilposthan, art and crafts, Chikitsa Vidya, medicine. Similarity curriculum of higher education, Buddhism, Hinduism, astrology, medicine and administration, logic and metaphysics. Thank you.
अनंतरम अभिक त्रिपाठी, भारतीय परंपरा और वृक्षायुर्वेद। छात्रों में से कोई है अपना पेपर प्रेजेंट करना चाहता है? केउ यदि किछु यदि लिखे नहीं एसेछो पेपर प्रेजेंट करार जन्य यदि इच्छा ताहले नाम बोले दाओ। और क्यों बाकी अच्छे यदि?
सभा में उपस्थित सभी को मेरा प्रणाम। मेरा विषय है भारतीय परंपरा और वृक्षायुर्वेद यानी बॉटनिकल साइंस। जैसे कि हम सब जानते हैं, प्राचीन भारत का जो आयुर्वेद विद्या वह काफ़ी ऊंचाई तक जा चुकी थी। वह आयुर्वेद विद्या खाली मानव कल्याण के लिए ही रचित नहीं हुई थी। मूल अष्टांग आयुर्वेद में मानव कल्याण की बात की गई। मूल अष्टांग आयुर्वेद के अलावा बहुत सारे शाखा आयुर्वेद की रचना भी हुई थी, जहाँ पर मनुष्यतर जीव गोष्ठी की बात की गई, जैसे वृक्षायुर्वेद, अश्वायुर्वेद। उनमें से वृक्षायुर्वेद में पेड़ पौधों के ऊपर चर्चा हुई। हम जानते हैं आचार्य जगदीश चंद्र बोस ने पहली बार बोले थे कि पेड़ में जीवन यानी जान है। लेकिन उनसे बहुत पहले वेद में ये बात ऑलरेडी उल्लिखित है। अथर्व वेद में ही हमें मिलता है, अस्तुर वृक्षा ऊर्ध्वस्व प्रास्तिष्ठार्थ। इसके अलावा ऋग्वेद, यजुर्वेद, पुराण, मनु संहिता, याज्ञवल्क्य संहिता, कौटिल्य की अर्थशास्त्र वह किताब है जहाँ पर हमें उद्भिद विज्ञान की भी चर्चा मिलती है, थोड़ी बहुत मिलती है। जैसे कौटिल्य के अर्थशास्त्र में सीताध्यक्ष नाम की एक पाठ है जहाँ पर हमें बहुत सारे उनके उस विषय में चर्चा मिली। और मनु संहिता, याज्ञवल्क्य संहिता हमें स्पष्ट रूप से बोला गया है कि पेड़ काटना एक दंडनीय विधि है। महाभारत के आदि पर्व शांति पर्व में और रामायण में अशोक वाटिका का जो वर्णन है वहाँ पर भी हमें उद्भिद विद्या के ऊपर चर्चा मिलते हैं। जैन धर्म में भी इसकी थोड़ी बहुत चर्चा की गई बाद में। गौतम बुद्ध के रचना में भी हम वृक्षायुर्वेद विषय कुछ पंक्तियाँ जो है वो हमें मिलते हैं। सम्राट अशोक के गिरनार शिलालेख के द्वितीय भाग में भी पेड़ लगाने की बात की गई है। प्राय हम देखते हैं तुलसी, अशोक, अश्वत्थ यानी पीपल के जो पेड़ होते हैं वो लगाने के लिए और पूजा करने की बात की गई है। एक्चुअली वहाँ पर यह कोई कुसंस्कार नहीं है, बल्कि इन पेड़ में अच्छी गुणवत्ता हमें देखने के लिए मिलते हैं, इसलिए शास्त्रकार ने ऐसे बताए हैं जैसे किसी भी हाल में ये पेड़ जो है सुरक्षित रहे। वस्तुतः वृक्षायुर्वेद के अलावा वृक्षायुर्वेद के अलग एक परंपरा की भी निर्माण हुई थी, जो आगे जाके कृषि विद्या, उद्भिद विद्या, उद्यान विद्या से रूपांतरित हुआ। आज का जो उद्भिद विद्या है वो बहुत डेवलप्ड है, फिर भी हम बोल सकते हैं उन जमाने का जो उद्भिद विद्या थी या वृक्षायुर्वेद जो उन जमाने में रचित हुई थी, तो वो जो है वो किसी हाल से कम नहीं थी। धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। सुभाषिष पहाड़ी।
Good afternoon. My topic is Indian Knowledge System and National Education Policy 2020 in the light of geography. Our education has got to be revolutionized, said Mahatma Gandhi 1939. With the new National Education Policy having released, there is a lot of aspiration, hope and eagerness that people from different sects of the society are looking forward with to its implementation. The document categorically states the students are the prime stakeholders in the education system. This is a statement which is complete in itself regarding the vision and the idea of looking at the students not as citizens of tomorrow, but actually as the citizens of today, who are equal, if not more, stakeholders in the development of the country and the policies made thereof. Socio-economically disadvantaged groups, that is called ACDGS, while overall enrollment in schools declines steadily from grade 1 to grade 12. This decline in enrollment is significantly more pronounced for many of these socio-economical disadvantaged groups. This will help these areas to get the necessary attention and incentives from the governments in the future. On the problem with the schools, particularly primary schools, is the small size of the schools. The schools are often spread in multiple numbers with minimum numbers of students. The geographical dispersion, challenging access conditions, and the very large numbers of schools make it difficult to reach all schools equally. The isolation of small schools also harms education and the teaching learning process. The documents have stated that teachers function best in communities and teams, and so do students. Fostering unity and Indian cultural ethos, Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, under Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat initiative, every student in the country will participate in a fun project or activity on the language of India, sometime in grade 6 to 8. In this, they will learn about the origin and script, etc. About the languages, the students will also be taught what geographical areas speak which languages, and they will learn to say commonly spoken phrases and sentences in every major languages of India, and also learn a bit about the rich and uplifting literature of each. The policy proposes to redesigning the curriculum and pedagogy to be strongly rooted in the Indian and local context and ethos in terms of not just cultural, but also as per the geography and indigenous and traditional ways of learning. The stories, arts, games, sports, examples, problems, etc. will be chosen from the Indian and local geographic context. Presently, there is a shortage of teachers in the geographical taught and rural areas. Often the teachers teach in multiple classes and multiple subjects other than the one they are trained in. This reduces the efficiency of the teacher and also prevents the flow of proper knowledge to the students. It is concluded that it also says to increase efforts to make Olympiads and competitions in various subjects available in rural areas and religion languages to ensure widespread participation. It is emphasized that systemized arrangements shall be created to provide the requisite support to students from rural backgrounds, including increasing hostel facilities are needed. all higher educational institutions will ensure quality medica. Thank you.
अनन्तरं सुरजित सामंत.
Indian knowledge system and the respected chairperson, ma'ams and delegates and students. My paper is Indian knowledge system and the national education policy, a pathway to holistic learning. Indian boasts a rich and the diverse cultural heritage that the encompasses deeply rooted in the country's tradition, have sustained communities for the generation, offering unique insights to various aspects of life. This research paper speaks to charity examine in the role and the significance of Indian knowledge system within the framework of the national education policy in aims 2. Structure of the paper is the structure into 7 main sections, each focusing on different aspects of Indian knowledge system, and they are the integrating to the national education policy. Section 2 provides a historical perspective on Indian knowledge system in the education, emphasizing their role for historical and learning experience and the promoting culture heritage. Section 4 the examines of the provisions of the national education policy 2022 related to Indian knowledge system and the highlights key institute aim at their integration. Conclusion: by celebrating it the integrates knowledge Indian can a path towards inclusion and the education that the natures the holistic development of its citizens hold the preserving its the holistic development of its citizens cultural heritage for the generation to come. Thanks.
अभिजीत पंडा.
नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्याम जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। मेरा विषय है भारतीय शिक्षा पद्धति प्राचीन आधुनिकी। भारतीय शिक्षा पद्धति अर्थात वह शिक्षा पद्धति जिसका उपयोग तक्षशिला व नालंदा विश्वविद्यालय जैसे विश्वविद्यालय करते थे, वह विश्वविद्यालय जिसने भारत को वराहमिहिर, भास्कराचार्य, बाणभट्ट, आर्यभट्ट तथा चाणक्य जैसे महानतम विद्वान प्रदान किए हैं। भारत की शिक्षा पद्धति की छाप व चमक इतनी थी कि प्राचीन काल में विदेशों से अगणित विद्यार्थी विद्यार्जन के लिए आते थे। यहाँ तक कि विदेशी तीर्थयात्रियों में से मेगास्तनीज, फैजान, हवेनसांग, इत्सिंग तथा पेश आदि का भारत आने के एक कारण यहाँ से ज्ञान अर्जित करना भी था। अल्बानी वस्तुतः भारत के महान ग्रंथों का अध्ययन करके उनसे अत्यधिक प्रभावित हुआ था, परंतु मोहम्मद गजनबी के आदेश के अनुसार तथा इन ग्रंथों की भावना संस्कृत भाषा समझ न पाने के कारण वह उनके छिद्रान्वेषण के और उन्मुख हो गया। परंतु फिर भी वह इन ग्रंथों व भारत की शिक्षा की प्रशंसा करने से स्वयं को रोक ना सके। वस्तुतः भारतीय शिक्षा अत्यंत महान तथा प्राचीनतम शिक्षा व्यवस्था है, अतएव भारत विश्वगुरु कहलया। पुनः कथयति विद्या ददाति विनयम विनयात याति पात्रताम पात्रत्वात् धनमाप्नोति धनात् धर्म ततः सुखम। इससे पूर्व को हम भारतीय शिक्षा के विस्तार की चर्चा करें। भारतीय शिक्षा परंपरा का उद्देश्य है सर्वप्रथम चरित्र का निर्माण, विनयी भाव देना, सत् पात्र तैयार करना इत्यादि। फिर भी हम नए प्रयास कर रहे हैं। सीबीएसई ने CCTN क्रिटिकल क्रिएटिव थिंकिंग जैसे नई तकनीक, नए शिक्षण प्रविधि का प्रयोग की अनुशंसा की है। जैसे केंद्रीय विद्यालय से उत्कृष्ट संस्थान ने अपना मनाया है। इसके अंतर्गत अध्यापन में इस प्रकार की परिस्थिति उत्पन्न हो जाती है कि एक विद्यार्थी पेश की गई घटना, चित्र, कहानी को अपनी दृष्टि से देखना है तथा स्वयं के विचारों का सृजन करना है। पेश का गई है समस्या का हल स्वयं खोजना है। अस्तु।
धन्यवाद। दीपेंद्र पंडा।
Education policy lays particular emphasis on the development of the creative potential of each individual. It is based on the principle that education must develop not only cognitive capacities, both the foundational capacities of literacy and numeracy, and higher order cognitive capacities such as critical thinking, the rich heritage of ancient and eternal Indian knowledge and thought has been the gilding light for this policy. The pursuit of knowledge, wisdom, and truth was always considered in Indian thought and philosophy as the highest human goal. The aim of education in ancient India was not just the acquisition of knowledge as preparation for life in this world or life beyond schooling, but for the complete realization and liberation of the shelf world-class institutions of ancient India such as Taxila, Nalanda, Bikramshila, Vallavi, etc. The principles of the National Education Policy. This policy envisages that the extant 10+2 structure in school education will be modified with a new pedagogical and curricular restructuring of 5+3+3+4 level. Thank you.
धन्यवाद। इदानीम् आधार पुरुषान् अनुरुन्धे आध्यक्ष भाषणं स्वीय प्रददतु।
भवतूनां परंपरा अवश्यमेव परिपालनीया इति कारणात् यः खलु अध्यक्षः भवति तस्य प्रमुखं कर्तव्यं भवति कि केन केन किं किं विहितमिति। एतदेव तस्य कृते प्रमुखं कार्यम्। अत्र सर्वतः पूर्वम् अस्माकं मात्री बढ़िया मीनाक्षी मिश्र महोदया यत् प्रतिपादितं तद् अस्माकं कृते आशीर्वादस्वरूपं, परञ्च तया ज्ञान विज्ञान जीवन दर्शनानां विषये चर्चा कृता। भारतीय शिक्षा नीतिमाश्रित्य, प्राचीन शिक्षा नीतिमाश्रित्य, भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरामाश्रित्य एतेषां विषयाणां चर्चा संक्षेपेण विहिता। डॉक्टर नरनारायण दास महोदयैः संस्कृत पठन पाठन व्यवस्थायाः तुलनात्मक अध्ययनम् इति प्रतिपादितम्। अनन्तरं परिमल मंडल महोदयैः भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरायां राजधर्मस्य किं स्वरूपं कः नृपः प्रियः भवति इति विषयम् उद्धृत्य अत्र उल्लिखितं प्रजानां प्रियः एव प्रियः यतोहि प्रजानां सन्ततिः पिता तदैव प्रियो भवति यदा सन्ततिः सन्तुष्टः भवति प्रजा शब्दस्य उभौ अर्थौ भवतः इति। संजीव देवनाथ महोदयैः भारतीयज्ञानस्य स्रोत के वर्तन्ते तत्र श्रुति स्मृति इत्यादीनां विषयाणां चर्चा उल्लिखिता एवं च IKS इति पॉइंट आश्रित्य आयुर्वेद योग ज्योतिष वैदिक गणितादीनां समेषां प्रामुख्यं तत्र वर्तते इति उल्लिखितं। संक्षेपेणैव डॉक्टर पपुरानी शासमहल महोदया यदुक्तं राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीतेः व्यवस्थाः 5+3+3+4 एवं च अस्याः व्यवस्थायाः किं वैशिष्ट्यं विषयेऽस्मिन् तया उक्तं। डॉक्टर प्रसाद रंजन चक्रवर्ती महोदयेन कॉलोनियल रोल नीतेः भारतीय समाजे कः प्रभावः कीदृशश्च प्रभावः इति विषये तेन उल्लिखितं। डॉक्टर शुभमय पहाड़ी महोदयैः यदुक्तं तद्भवति जातीय शिक्षा नीतौ अनुच्छेदे 4.27 तमे उल्लिखितस्य ज्ञानस्य का स्थितिः वर्तते एवं च अरविंद प्रतिपादित गणित माहात्म्यस्य वस्तुतः वैदिक गणितस्य किं माहात्म्यं प्राचीन काले जा अस्माकं सर्वाधिकं शून्यवादम् आश्रित्य चर्चा वर्तते तद् शून्यमाश्रित्य विशिष्टं तस्य लेखः वर्तते एवं च विशिष्टम् उल्लिखितमपि। विदिशा त्रिपाठी बौद्ध दर्शनम् अवलम्ब्य ज्ञान विषयिनी चर्चा अत्रोपस्थापिता बौद्ध विषयम् अवलम्बिनी। अभीक त्रिपाठी भारतीय परंपरायां भिक्षायुर्वेदः अभीक त्रिपाठी महोदयेन जगदीश चंद्र बसोः उद्भिदस्यापि प्राणाः भवन्ति इति विषयमतिरिच्य एवमेव सुभाषेश बहारी महोदयाः सुरजीत सामंत महोदयाः जाहिदून खातून महाशया अभिजीत पंडा महोदयाः एवं च दिव्येन्दु पंडा महोदयाः स्वस्व मतमाश्रित्य अत्र स्वकीयं शोधपत्रं प्रस्तुतं सम्यक् च विषयं समुपस्थापितम् अतः एतेषां सर्वेषां कृते धन्यवादः महाविद्यालय पक्षतः सभा पक्षतः कार्यक्रम पक्षतः इदानीम् अस्माकं गुरुदेव महोदयाः आगताः अन्यस्य कार्यक्रमस्य प्रारम्भो भवति भवतु नाम शुभं कल्याणम्।
अध्यक्ष समेत सर्वेभ्यः पत्रवाचकेभ्यः एकस्वरेण हार्दाः धन्यवादाः वितीर्यन्ते। इदानीम् अन्तिमसत्रम् अस्माकम् उद्यापनं सत्रं भविष्यति।
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, madam, we can hear you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon once again. So we begin with the valedictory session of our seminar. So first of all, I would like to welcome the chairperson of the valedictory session, Professor Kishore Chandra Padi, the ex-Vice Chancellor of Sri Jagannath Sanskrit University, Puri, and also our ex-chairperson of the management committee onto the dais. So, as per our program schedule, we are supposed to present the session report first, but we have changed a bit. since we are running a bit late. So first we'll have the speech by the distinguished speaker, Professor Bula Bhadra. Then we'll have our session report, and then the certificate distribution, and last the vote of thanks. So I would like to welcome Professor Bula Bhadra, who is online, and she will be presenting the valedictory address. Professor Bula Bhadra is currently Professor Emeritus and Director of Center of Interdisciplinary Studies and Research in Social Sciences at Sister Nivedita University in Kolkata. Formerly, she was Professor of Sociology, Calcutta University for a long, long time. She did her MA and PhD from McMaster University, Canada, where she taught for 3 years as assistant professor. And then she joined Calcutta University and served there for 28 years. She was the visiting professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, Indian Institute of Engineering, Science and Technology, Shibpur, West Bengal. And present in the she was the professor and head of Department of Sociology, Sister Nivedita University in July 2019. Professor Bhadra, her research interest and areas of specialization include post-colonial theory, sociology of gender, sociology of childhood, and sociology of science and technology. She has published extensively on gender and childhood, gender and technology, nationally and international journals. She has published extensively on gender and childhood, gender and technology, and her first book entitled Materialist in Orientalism Marx Asiatic Mode of Production in India, and several of her articles are internationally accredited. She has written both in vernacular and English. She has supervised 18 PhDs and 16 MPhils on gender childhood. If I go in details, it will continue for much more. Presently, she is the board member of Research Committee RC22 of International Sociological Association, Secretary and Treasurer of RC13 of International Sociological Association. She is also an expert and member of Schemes of Science and Equity, Empowerment and Development. And she was the first founding convener of Research Committee of Sociology of Childhood and Youth, Indian Sociological Society, and she has been visiting professor in many universities in India and abroad. And she has conducted various projects under UGC and ICCR, and also delivered lecture in refresher orientation and short courses. So apart from her scholarly that introduction that I have given, Professor Bhadra is my teacher, and I have been related to her for more than 30 years, and it's a great pleasure for me to have Professor Bhadra to be present in this online seminar. It would have been better if Madam could have come personally because of her age and her physical ailment. It is not possible for her to come here. But I am very extremely happy that she has consented to present a lecture online. And the topic of our presentation today is decolonization of knowledge through indigenous knowledge system. And she will be delivering on this topic with reference to the main theme of the seminar, that is Indian Knowledge System and National Education System 2020. So on behalf of the seminar committee, I would like to felicitate Professor Bula Bhadra.
प्रोफेसर मैम बुला भद्र जी को हमारे सेमिनार के जो समन्वयक है किंसुक शाह जी अभी उपढौकन बैग इत्यादि से, और उन्हीं के हमारे सेमिनार के एक स्मृति चिन्ह जो मैडम का छायाचित्र उसमें है, उसी के साथ आपको हमारे महाविद्यालय की ओर से और इस सेमिनार की ओर से आपको सम्मानित कर रहे हैं।
Thank you very much. बहुत धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया. Thank you. Thank you. I wish I could be present there.
धन्यवाद मैम.
धन्यवाद.
Thank you, madam, for accepting our.
Thank you.
So we begin with our valedictory address.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to say something about a topic I have been working for long, and it's really a matter of problem that I could not go and be there, but I am with you in all my hearts present there. Now, the topic I chose actually because I think you would be listening to NAPE 2020 all day long. Even though I would focus on NAPE 2020 a little bit, the salient features of NAPE 2020, at least for higher education. And then I will go to this decolonization of knowledge and Indian knowledge systems, which is very, very important. Now, actually, NAPE 2020, finally, let's say we were independent totally in 1950 with our democratic republic and acceptance of the Constitution of India. So this took us almost 74, let's say 72 years or so, because lockdown was there, etc., to understand that we need to be taught exactly the way we require. Macaulay in 1885 gave us a lecture that we should be made successful clerks of British Empire. And actually, even after independence, we were successfully making Macaulay's wishes prophecy, and were actually doing this service in terms of educational policies. Finally, we have a national education policy, though not completely flawless, but overall, we have a national education policy I would emphasize on higher education, that actually will create researches and documents on India and will know India within the lens of the Indian knowledge system, which is IKS. So this is really a pleasure for me to talk about this. Let me just focus for a little bit on the salient features of the NEP 2020. The fundamental principles of the policy is to recognize, identify, and foster the unique capacities of each student by sensitizing teachers as well as parents to promote each student's holistic development in both academic and non-academic fields. Now, this particular objective is actually telling us a lot, that we adults, the teachers and the parents, need to retrain ourselves how to actually communicate with our children. That means the future of the nation. And we're talking here also, the second point is the holistic development. Not just, you read and you memorize and give exams, but a holistic position. And by grade 3, that means in the primary education, everybody should achieve foundational literacy and numeracy. I won't talk about the other aspects of the primary school education, which is very important though, but it's impossible to talk, 3 levels in one lecture. So next comes flexibility. This is another very dynamic point, that learners have the ability to choose their learning trajectories and programs. Generally, what happens in India is that adults talk for children for a long time. But that should not be the case. Children should be allowed to act as actor, as agency, so that they can choose. See, this is Rabindranath actually wrote from 1890 onwards until his death 1940 about children and children's education, and taking children as individual actor, not just, taking in that, oh, you listen to us, you don't know, shut up, or, stop. So children were given the most important position in Rabindranath's essays, short stories, and other things which people do not read actually, except some poems. But Rabindranath was the philosopher sociologist who understood the role of children, flexibility, and their freedom. So here, in NEP 2020 curriculum, Rabindranath should be included as a sociologist, as a philosopher, and as a person who shows the road. And the roadmap should be there by reading Rabindranath, which hasn't happened today. And a curriculum committee, every curriculum committee should take care of that. And there will be no hard separation between art, science, curricular, extracurricular, vocational, academic, etc. Because these are called silos, long bars, without no gaps. So, the subjects are as if isolated positions. No, all subjects are related to each other. I mean, what would technology be of use if society is not there? What would scientific progress do with what if we have only a few people left in the world? So obviously, all we do is for people. That is society. And society is a web of relationships. So naturally, if we have, silo, long bars without any doors between physics and music, between chemistry and dance, between languages and technology, nothing could be worse than that. So every subject is equally important, and the student will make a choice according to the aptitude, knack, and some other things also. Maybe guidance, but guidance that takes care and honors the student. So obviously, this is one of the big contribution of NEP 2020, that finally NEP 2020 has been able to recognize that, if somebody reads science, that is a good student. Somebody read, doing technology is a good one, and somebody reading history or Bengali literature or even sociology is a bad student. Because if there are no sociologists, there would be nobody to tell about society. And if there is no history, even technology's history is not going to be recorded, if that is the case. So multidisciplinary holistic education with no separation between subjects should be one of the cardinal features of NEP 2020. And that provides unity and integrity of knowledge. An emphasis on conceptual and analytical understanding than rote learning, that is memorization and exams. In our life, actually, we have seen that we have to get marks, and in order to get marks, we must memorize. How much memorize can we do? And that has actually created the debacle that we stop thinking and memorizing other people's text, ill-digested one. Rabindranath said that once, that, the student is like the parrot. There is a parrot's tale, Tota Kahini. It's a 2-page one, and it's very famous. It is translated in 20 languages. That 2-page article, saying that a parrot is put in a cage, and the parrot is being civilized by the pandits who are putting all the leaves into parrot's mouth, so the parrot become intelligent. Rabindranath compared this with saying that, if you are actually telling the student, the child, to memorize and not understand, that memory would be creating a parrot's tale. So we were actually becoming parrots and clerks, and rather than human being, intellectual individuals, etc. Unfortunately, remember that we have 2 Nobel Prizes until of independence. Only one Rabindranath, second one C.V. Raman. After that long years, we have now one other Nobel Prize jointly. So in a sense, there is a politics also in there, but in a sense, we were not doing creative thinking. And NEP 2020 actually, strongly emphasizes this creativity and also this analytical understanding. And this would, if NEP 2020 is successfully implemented, it will be really a great, contribution to Indian education, research, and innovation. NEP 2020 also emphasizes another very important thing, promoting multilingualism and the power of language in teaching and learning. One must know one's mother tongue, one must know one linked language, and one also should know the language in she or he would do research. So it is actually starting from the childhood that a three-language formula, and it is very important to follow. Now, problem is that actually not in the level of students. Problem is that we in the level of teaching personnel and those who actually make policy. So if this NEP 2020 has to be successful in terms of life skills, in terms of integration between disciplines like multidisciplinary positions, we have to be open, creative, and in mind that education is a concurrent subject. And food equity and inclusion can only come if these are accepted very seriously and practiced at all levels. Now, teachers and faculty has to understand these at the heart of learning. We teachers are often do not teach the way we are supposed to teach. We teacher actually tell students that you read so and so, and you memorize and write the exam. And parents are often do not talk about the child's interest or child's inclination or knack, but pressurizes the child to get a lot of marks to be either this or that. If you are not an engineer or doctor, you are nobody. If you paint very well, even also, we talk about only jobs. Education is not an industry to give jobs. Education is life's principles to make life. So skills of education are only a part in terms of making your job, but everything making you what you love in life. This is here, but I am not sure yet. I hope I probably won't be able to see it, but I hope my next generation will be able to see that this is actually happening as we go on with NEP 2020. Continuous review of progress based on sustained research and regular assessments. Not a mid-semester exam and an exam, and the day of the exam you came, you memorized and you vomited and you went back and somehow you got the marks. So this has to go away. And we have to remember education is a public service, and access to quality of education must be considered a basic fundamental right of every child. Right to education in 2009 has been made a fundamental right. There was an inclusion in the Constitution. And should we follow our Constitution properly, or we should not? Now, these are some of the salient features of the NEP we have to remember before we go to school or send our child to school and try to teach something. And since India is a multilingual country, and India also has officially, all the languages are officially language, we have to learn languages properly. And I think those who want to research, they must learn Sanskrit. It has nothing to do with any kind of political policy positions. I'll just tell a small personal narrative here, which might be useful if you think about it. Since I knew a little bit of Sanskrit, when I went abroad and did my PhD, I did a critique of Marx's views on India. And one of the criticism was that Marx once wrote that in order to learn Russia, I learned Russian. And in order to know well India, he did not learn Sanskrit. So he never referred anything original while he wrote on India. And he actually denigrated India as very vegetative and stagnant, etc. So naturally, these things would go away if we learn our original language and tell that, well, which original document you are referring to. So obviously, I will come to the particular proposition on a particular one, how we actually do it. So ancient practices developed by Indians, how that was passed one generation after another, has to be taught. We need to know about Nalanda, Takshashila, that how people from China, respected researchers, why did they come to India? And why did they stay there and taught for a long time? It doesn't mean that we have to do that the same way. It means that we need to know our country well. Whatever we do, we need to know our country well. Then only we will understand what actually the country needs. Otherwise, we will do things by copying. We copy a lot because Macaulay told us that, you copy us and you will be clerks in mind and head. So we became that. We copy a lot. We question less. IKS, Indian Knowledge System, actually based on questioning. If you know the conversation between Guru and Shishya, it was called Mimangsha, Nay. That means you argue. You argue logically, very logically, so that you can actually defeat your Guru. I don't mean that we have to go to Guru's house and sit there and eat and study like ancient people. That's not a possibility. But the Gurus we face every day, that means the teachers, they have to know their own country to tell the citizens that how much they know. If you don't know your one, otherwise how would you teach others? Now the IKS, Indian Knowledge System, it is actually emerged and stayed for thousands and thousands of years. This is recognized by Nep very well in the sense that it recognizes Indian knowledge thought as guiding principle, that is Gyan, Vigyan and Jivan Darshan. Gyan, Vigyan and Jivan Darshan. And this allows us to read along if we know Sanskrit and Pali also, because Buddhist documents are also full of that. We can read probably the traditional India, as we call it, following British, traditional India. What's traditional about it? Britain was also traditional at that point of time. In fact, Britain does not have, our colonial master did not have any written history until 9th century AD. Remember the fall of Rome, how Roman Empire was destroyed by a bunch of tribes, Goths, Visigoths and Vandals. But are Goths, Visigoths and Vandals more developed than Rome? Of course not. So just being defeated in the wars does not mean that we did not know. So our Gyan, Vigyan and Darshan, Jivan Darshan, should be transmitted to what we say to our everyday knowledge. American anthropologist Barnett Cohn, he wrote a book, a lot of books actually, Colonialism and its Forms of Knowledge. And this particular book is now considered almost text everywhere because he talked about forms of knowledge, how British messed it up. And one other person, Nicholas B. Darks, he is also an American. I'm going to read from just 3-4 lines from Nicholas B. Darks so that, you can understand in summary what actually I'm trying to do. Darks wrote as preface to Barnett Cohn's book, Colonialism and its Forms of Knowledge, The British in India, which is published from Princeton University Press, 1996. There has been several editions since then. It has not been sufficiently recognized that colonialism was itself a cultural project of control. Colonial knowledge both enabled conquest and was produced by it. In certain important ways, knowledge what colonialism was all about. I'm repeating the line. In certain important ways, knowledge was what colonialism was all about. Cultural forms in societies newly classified as traditional were reconstructed and transformed by and through this knowledge, which created new categories and oppositions between colonizers and colonized, between European and Asian, between modern and traditional, West and East. What Darts meant by this, and which was written by Bernard Cohn in its Colonialism and Forms of Knowledge, that as colonial rulers colonized us, they not only took the political or power and economic exploitation, they also penetrated into our cultural value system and understanding of India, that India and other countries, Afro-Asian countries as they say, are actually backward. And that backwardness allowed them to colonize them in order to spread civilization actually into Afro-Asia. Even Marx is considered the father of socialism. Marx wrote that I know England is doing a lot of harm in India because it is exploiting India. And there are lots of loots and etc. going on. But if India has to go on, India has to be colonized, because India has been stagnant for thousands and thousands of years. So whatever the crimes of England, should we not have encourage the only social revolution in the state of Asia? Marx considered that it was British who brought civilization and the civilizational artifacts to India. Marx did not read anything but wrote depending on the colonial administrators who were actually writing this thing. Now, after this, currently for the last, let's say, 70 to 80 years, we have been actually criticizing this world economy of knowledge, which we now call decolonization of knowledge. Decolonization of knowledge is now a clear sub-area in what we call in Global South. Even in Global North, in some cases, those who are actually forward-looking like Cohn or Darks, this kind, American and also some European, they write actually that it was such a myth and a stereotype they created that the Eastern countries were stagnant and Western countries were forward-looking. That's the simple untruth of the things. In fact, Angus Madison, a British economist, he has published a series of lectures. It's also in social media, if you can get it. Angus Madison show that before colonization, India and China were the top in terms of development. And after colonization, India went complete down. China was not colonized. So China went down. We can see that China did not go down, and China now controls quite a bit of world economy. So this is what we call decolonization of knowledge. And on the other hand, indigenous knowledge system. If we do not read our indigenous texts, indigenous readers, how will we know about our country and produce research and proper educational ability to contest in the world? Currently, the economy of knowledge, what we call world economy of knowledge, is placed on a vast division of labor with its hegemony of colonial epistemology. For the last 300 years or so, colonized as the post-colonial world has not only been a source of raw material for the metropolis, but it also has been a source of metropolitan knowledge, institution, etc. An African sociologist actually did a lot of work on this, and Anibal Quijano, He calls it coloniality of power. Why? He said what we read actually is their text. What we read actually is how they explained us. Exactly what Rabindranath wrote in 1890s to 1930s. That why should we not read our things in our knowledge, in our language? Yes, of course we'll learn English. English is a linked language. By colonization we'll learn it. But unfortunately, if anyone goes to Europe, if you utter an English word in the street, you will be very rudely treated, because Europeans hate England also for different reasons. But we here do not actually do what we call charcha, what we call development of our own. And that's why we are also in the knowledge periphery. When we teach sociology, for example, we teach Western classical sociological thinkers. Every university has this particular course. There's no need for it. Why don't we teach also? Fine. We reach Western culture. We also read West Indian cultural thinkers. Why don't we read Kautilya or Aryabhatta, for that matter? Why only quote a few lines from Monu which Warren Hastings translated without reading? I'm not supporting anyone. I'm saying we have to read in order to criticize. And we must read our own language. We must know the language, must read the original, because that's what education and research is all about. I'll finish with a classic example, which is called caste. You know, the interesting part of the fact is there is no caste in India. I tell you why I'm making this statement, a huge statement. Casta is a Portuguese word which was introduced during Vasco da Gama's one, which is 1498. Casta means purity, lineage. And when actually people came into India, the stratification among Indians were not understood by them because they don't know Indian language. They don't know the original materials. So they called it caste, British. And that is when the word caste was included in Indian everything. I'm claiming this 100% challenge that the word caste does not exist, did not exist in any of the original Indian texts in any language until in 19th century. British made it compulsory to report to the census of 1901. It was 1901 census when British said that you report on the basis of your caste. And you know how many castes 1901 actually repeated? It repeated in Bengal alone 2005 castes and 3000 castes in India. Now remember, we read Chaturvarna and some jatis, not caste. But how can have we 2005 castes alone in Bengal and 3000 in India? So it's an interesting position how things were manipulated completely for the division of India. Because they know that as long as they can divide in the name of this, Indians will remain divided. Lot of Indian historians, sociologists have pointed this out. But still, in the curriculum, we call it caste. Instead of that, we do not call it, there were 3 Varnas in the first early Rig Vedas, and in the 10th Rig Veda, we had the word Shudra, who were laborers. And we also do not discuss that in Gujarat once upon a time, Shato Shudras were rulers. We can show millions of examples that this was a ruler, this was a zamindar, etc. But we don't read our own. Even area studies we don't know. In Europe now, we have area studies in curriculum that we have to know what Poland was before. We have to know what Azerbaijan was before Soviet Union went there. So not knowing indigenous knowledge, what has been translated as caste, Varno is translated as caste and Jati is translated as subcaste. This has to be the world's one of the greatest blunder. Who told this? If there is any sociology one, at least King Shuk will know this. M.N. Srinivas, one of the most lauded sociologists from India. He wrote as early as 1952 that if you say Borno is caste, please don't discuss, because caste is a localized phenomenon. There is no all India definition of caste. So that is why you will have, if you ask somebody's caste, somebody will tell their occupation, somebody will tell their forefathers' occupation, somebody will something else. So obviously, it is not an explanatory category for understanding India. But we have been continuing with the British tradition successfully. And I'm slightly upset in here that NAPE 2020 does not call for an abolition of this kind of foreign categories which are still being applicable. And, 2011 census, they said report by your caste. How do we define caste? Nobody has been able to define caste. Now, if you say there is hierarchy, we understand. But hierarchy was everywhere. When France, the Normans actually conquered England, they said clearly that we are not going to eat in the same table with the Saxons who have been defeated by us. So in a dinner, Saxon lords were called in a lower table, and Norman landlords is the higher table, and slaves were in the much lower table. We don't see a hierarchy in Europe. We don't see prejudices in Europe. We don't know about Joan of Arc being called witch and, died live. She was burned live. What we do is that we only talk about the ills we have and half digested non-indigenous education. I'm not calling for abolition of English. I'm not calling for abolition of any kind of connectedness with the world, because technology has made us global village. But technology has also give us an opportunity that in Google, now you can read lots of Indian languages. That opportunity should be taken by also the researcher and the student. Should not use Google, internet for playing games and for pornography. We can learn even languages through YouTube, because YouTube gives a lot of language learning teaching. See, we have to take now that is 21st century, we have to take the best of it and let it work for my mother country. In terms of loving the country, we haven't forwarded actually. NAPE 2020 actually should have say that loving your country is also part of being educated. Because unless you love your country, your motherland, you won't be able to say that there was no caste in Indian literature. British and French imported in and Portuguese imported. You won't be able to say that tribes, the word tribe is a Latin word, tribus in Roman world. You won't be able to say that these are actually called neo-colonization. I know that, I should not speak anymore. I would finish with a quote from Rabindranath Tagore, just to show that this would be, anyway, Kinshu, I don't think people will understand Bengali, right?
Yes, madam, you can continue in Bengali.
I can continue because I would like to read this from Rabindranath positively. Because this is one of the person we have neglected a lot. So I would like to do that. Just a moment, give me a moment's time. No, I have translated it, so I can read it in English. Since child, Rabindranath wrote in an article, Shikhar Herfer, mismatch of education. Since childhood, instead of putting the entire burden on the memory, the power of thinking and the power of imagination should also be given opportunities for free exercise. This was Tagore in 99. Now, he went to America and he gave a lecture in English. And I'm reading one paragraph from that. Don't limit a child to your own learning, for he was born in another time. We rob the child of this art to teach him geography, of language to teach him grammar. But his hunger is for the epic, but he is supplied with chronicles of facts and dates. Child nature protests against such calamity with all its power of suffering, subdued at last into silence by punishment. See, this was Rabindranath Tagore. He gave a lecture on education of the child in 1960 in America. Let me finish with this particular line in Bengali. রবীন্দ্রনাথ লিখছেন শিক্ষার সংস্কারে গরুর গাড়ির সঙ্গে নিয়ন লাইট জুড়িও না, তাহা হইলে গরুর গাড়ির মতোই চলিবে, সে চার চাকা হইয়া দৌড়াবে না। নমস্কার, শুক্রিয়া।
Thank you, madam, for your deliberation. It was really thought-provoking, and we have learned a lot from what you have said. And it was a very excellent lecture from your end. Sir, I would request you to, sir, if you, in one word.
Anybody wants to ask a question, we should allow.
Madam, we are running out of time. So just
Okay.
the chairperson wants to make a one-line comment.
Okay, sure. One day I will really come and give lecture.
Okay, always welcome, ma'am.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very excellent lecture delivered by you. We are very much grateful. You explained regarding the aim and theme of ICAS and definition of education and what is the secularism, caste system. All are very clearly you discussed in your lecture, so there is no necessity of question. Thank you for your very good, nice lecture.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, because I keep looking for opportunities to tell younger generation these things so that, we do better.
Thank you, madam, once again.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with our valedictory session. I request Dayananda just to present the report within a few minutes.
Thank you all, so I can leave now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, madam. We welcome you once again to our Mahavidyalaya.
Thank you very much.
समयाभावात् विस्तरसन् गच्छामि। केन्द्रीय संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालयस्य अर्थानुकूल्येन अस्मत् परिसरे एकदिवसीया या राष्ट्रीय संगोष्ठी अनुष्ठिता। भारतीय परंपरा एवं राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 अस्मिन् अवसरे संपूर्ण भारतदेशस्य नैकेषु प्रान्तेषु विद्वत् समागमः समभवत्। अत्र सर्वादौ सत्रचतुष्टयात्मिका इयं संगोष्ठी आसीत्। प्रथमसत्रे उद्घाटनपूर्वकम् अतिथीनां तत्र भाषणं, तत्र प्रमुखरूपेण ये आसन् केन्द्रीय संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालयस्य IKS चेयर इत्यस्य अधिष्ठातारः, अनन्तरं शैक्षणिक निदेशकाः प्रोफेसर बनमाली विश्वाल महोदयाः, ततश्च अस्माकं गुरुचरणाः प्रोफेसर किशोरचन्द्र पाठी महोदयाः। एवं एतेषां विदुषां भाषणेन प्रथमसत्रं परिपूर्णताम् अगात्। अनन्तरं द्वितीयसत्रं भोजनान्तरं द्वितीयसत्रे कल्याणी विश्वविद्यालयस्य संस्कृतविभागमुख्याः अनिन्द बन्द्योपाध्यायाः आसन्। तत्र संयोजकरूपेण संगोष्ठ्याः तत्र कोऑर्डिनेटर संजय अग्निहोत्री महोदय आसन्। तृतीयसत्रे आधारपुरुषरूपेण अमरेन्द्र कुमार मिश्र वर्याः आसन्। तत्र संयोजकरूपेण अहम् आसम्। अत्र 14 पत्रवाचकाः आसन्। 14 पत्रवाचकेषु आङ्ग्लभाषायां 5 पत्राणि, हिन्दीभाषायां पत्रद्वयम्, अन्यच्च संस्कृतभाषायाम् अन्येषां पत्राणां तत्र वाचनम् अभवत्। यदि कथयामि एकेन वाक्येन, अन्तिमसत्रे अत्र प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर बुलाभद्र महोदय आसीत्, या खलु अत्यन्त सुस्पष्टतया तस्याः वाचा उपस्थापितवती। अतः मूलरूपेण अस्याः संगोष्ठ्याः यत् फलमासीत् अस्माभिः तत्सर्वमपि अनुभवामः इत्युक्त्वा विरमामि। जयतु संस्कृतं, जयतु भारतम्।
धन्यवाद दयानंद sir. We are in the very final stages. We'll first distribute the certificates. I would request our honorable chairperson of this session, Professor Kishore Chandra Padi, to hand over the certificate to the paper presenters. ছবি নাও, প্রত্যেকটা ছবি নেবে। First of all, I would like to present the certificate to Madam Mrs. Meenakshi Misra, Madam.
अभी आइए, आइए ना, कभी जाएंगे, चलिए। अनंतरम नरनारायण दास, रामनगर कॉलेज। चलिए आप चलिए ना, आप भी चलिए, हाँ खड़े रहिए, ठीक है, हम भी चले जाएंगे। दिव्येंदु पंडा, हाँ सुभाषिष पहाड़ी, नेक्स्ट विदिशा त्रिपाठी, विदिशा त्रिपाठी, पापुरानी, अभिजीत पंडा, प्रसाद रंजन चक्रवर्ती, परिमल मंडल, संजीत देवनाथ, अभिक त्रिपाठी, सुरजीत सामंत, जयरून खातून, सूरजीत जाओ, शुभमय पहाड़ी, हाँ সবাই যারা এসেছেন বাইরে থেকে টিএটা নিয়ে যাবেন। একটা অনুরোধ প্রত্যেক প্রতিভাগীকে, টিএটা হয়ে গেছে, টিএ নিয়ে যাবেন, একটু নিচে দেখা করে টিএটা নিয়ে যাবেন, নাহলে থেকে যাবে।
Now we have come to the close of this seminar. So presenting vote of thanks. First, I would like to thank our former chairman, sir, Professor Kesipadi, who has given his invaluable time from the morning till the evening for successful completion of this seminar. He has been guiding force for us for all through 6 to 7 years. I would also like to propose a vote of thanks to all my teaching colleagues and non-teaching colleagues, along with the participants and dear students. Thank you all. Now we will end this session, this seminar with Shanti Mantra. Please rise for Shanti Mantra.
संजय सर को भी अनेक अनेक धन्यवाद। और शांति मंत्र के साथ सभा समाप्त करते हैं। ओम सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम।
হ্যাঁ, ছাত্রছাত্রীদের উদ্দেশ্যে বলা, যারা আজকে এই বৃষ্টিকে উপেক্ষা করেও সবাই মহাবিদ্যালয়ে উপস্থিত ছিলে, প্রত্যেক